Hi everybody. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Lech Lecha, and we're introduced to the matriarch and patriarch, both Avrohom and Sarah. And Avrohom was not raised in a religious home. He was raised in a home where the father was an idol worshiper and actually had a business of selling idols. But he was a thinking child, and as a child he wondered, who created this world? And he looked at the sun and thought maybe the sun is the most powerful. But then the moon came and pushed away the sun at night, till he realized that there was a power that's controlling everything, and that is the one God, Hashem. How about today? Can we find God by looking at nature? And the answer is a definitive yes. You look at the beauty of a sunset or a sunrise. You see how a caterpillar can turn into a butterfly. But you may say, wait a second, today we have science, we understand why and how these different things work. Well, Victor Hugo said it many, many years ago so beautifully. He said that where the telescope ends, the microscope begins. Of the two, which has the grander view? Powerful line. Again, where the telescope ends, the microscope begins. Which of the two has the grander view? Our telescopes today are much more sophisticated, and our microscopes are much more sophisticated, and they still create a wonder of the beauty of creation. And science gives us a lot more information. The power of the brain. The brain has 100 trillion neural connections, perfectly aligned with another, and each neuron is 10,000th time thinner than a piece of hair. It's estimated that our brain has 2.5 million gigabytes, a lot more than our iPhone does. Or how about Dr. Michael Denton, an Australian microbiologist? He says the capacity of DNA to store information vastly exceeds that of any other known system. It's so efficient that all the information needed to specify an organism as complex as man weighs less than a few thousand millionths of a gram. The information necessary to specify the design of all the species of organisms which have ever existed on the planet could be held in a teaspoon, and there would still be room left for all the information in every book ever written. Unbelievable what God has created. The complexity of the eye, how the integration of the universe and how it works, and how where planet Earth is exactly where it needs to be, a little closer to the sun, it would be game over. Further away, it would be frozen. So there's a lot to look at within nature that can inspire us today to see God. And that's something that we need to focus on, to be inspired by nature, to look and see God in our lives. But there's actually more than that. Today we have something else that we can do that also helps. And it's going to sound unrelated to nature, but in fact, it's even a higher level than using nature. And that is the study of Torah. God has embedded His holy light into the words of Torah. And when we study Torah, so much so that the prophet says, God says, you don't believe in me? Don't believe me. Just study my Torah, and the light within it will bring you closer to me. And many people have had that experience of studying the Torah, be it Talmud, Torah text, and they are inspired by that, and it brings them closer to God. So, Avram is our inspiration, how he began his life looking into nature and then developed himself to be a servant of God and to do acts of loving kindness and teach people about monotheism and teach people about the importance of following commandments and following the will of God. We can do that too by looking into nature, and now we have the gift of Torah that we can study and be inspired by it. May we use the role model of Avram and Sarah, and may we use their example of how they came to realize God and take it to the next level by studying God's Torah and feel the light and be infused by His light, so that we can be a light unto the nations as well through our example of being a holy people. Have a great Shabbos.